Welcome to the Founders Forum. I'm Blake Tingberg, a transactions attorney at Foley & Lardner.
Well, we're very excited to welcome Rob Patapinto and Anya Freeman to the show today. Rob is with Managing Partner and Chief Investment Officer of Govo Venture Partners, and Anya Freeman is the CEO of Kind Designs. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thanks, Blake.
Happy to be here.
I feel
Well,
like
Rob,
I
I'm going to start with you.
I feel like a regular.
No, we're so happy to have you. Rob, tell us a little bit about Govo Venture Partners and what led you to invest in Kind Designs.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. So Govo is an early stage fund based in Florida. So for us, that means seed to Series A investment, and we invest in companies that are in government regulated industries or those who are selling to government as a primary customer. We work very closely with the Foley team. You guys are our counsel, helped us put together our documentation. And I think it's Foley Fund 4. That's actually investor and LP in the fund as well, which we were very excited to have you guys on board. And Anya and Kind was a really interesting one because I don't want to steal too much of our thunder, but she 3D prints seawalls. So folks sort of go, what does that have to do with government? But actually what a seawall looks like, what gets built, how it gets built, is a highly regulated industry, normally controlled by county or municipal governments, and so we understood that. But more importantly, we just saw a really great technology and a great team. Again, I'm going to let Anya sing her own praises as to what she's built, but certainly also as a Florida-based fund, it's a peninsula, right? And there's water all around us, and she's based down in Miami, where one of our partners is, and it's pretty obvious what's changing in terms of sea rise and its impact, not just on the sea coming in, but also its impact on marine life and coral. So we saw a really unique solution in what Anya and her team had found and had built, and again, one that really squarely fits our thesis. So we were happy to co-lead her last round along with the state fund, the Florida Opportunity Fund. And a great family office in Tampa.
Oh, that's great. Well, Anya, I'm really curious to hear more about really the inspiration behind this idea to build these, kind of living seawalls. So tell us a little bit more about Kind Designs and kind of what led you down this path.
Sure. So I had a totally different life before. I came to the United States when I was already a teenager. I'm originally from Eastern Europe. I grew up in Israel, and I got the opportunity to come here because my dad got a special talent visa because he's working with a space program here. It's like a very typical Soviet family. My mom's a gymnastics teacher. And so we all showed up to a small town in Maine. It's called Kennebunkport, not speaking any English, like not knowing anything about American culture. But my whole family has always been very, very excited that we got the opportunity to come here, and especially that we got the blessing to become American citizens. And so that has been the biggest driver in my life, really making the most of the opportunity we were given. And as a first step, like a good immigrant child, I went to law school to fulfill my parents' American dream. And that's how I ended up in Miami, where Kind Designs is based today. So I got a scholarship to UM. I graduated. I started working as a lawyer, a prosecutor. Then I opened my own law firm. That was my first business. And I had a great life. Now I'm in my 20s. I have a good job. And I was really enjoying myself, as we all do at that age in our city. And then I started to notice that my home, this beautiful place, has a massive problem with flooding and rising sea levels. Increase in storm surges every single year. At the time, I lived in a house with all my girlfriends right in the middle of South Beach on 10th and Jefferson. We lived there for 7 years. And every time it rained, we had to race home to move our cars out of the driveway and off of Jefferson, because otherwise they would literally float down the street, which happens all the time. And there is not even a way to get flood insurance anymore for cars because it's so common in our area. And so,
oh, wow.
Right? So I realized this is not normal. Like my friends in other cities are not doing that. And I was just very curious in what's going on. And what I saw is that, yes, there's a lot of attention on this problem. It's almost fashionable to talk about, to write about it, but the narrative is always doom and gloom. It's you have to be crazy to be investing in South Florida, to be buying properties in these coastal cities. We're all going to be underwater by 2060. Just a lot of fear mongering. And seeing that there was not a lot of conversation around solutions and around the application of technology to find solutions, I left behind being a lawyer to my parents' horror and decided to start this company, Kind Designs, which would, number one, find a solution for my home, my city. That's the inspiration. Number two, do it in a way to create a product that was affordable and scalable so that we could provide this technology to every other coastal city at risk, because globally there's 507 cities facing the same existential crisis of rising sea levels and flooding. And number three, the big idea is that we wanted to build something that was also nurturing for all of the underwater ecosystem. So something that was actually great for sea life, which is really important in every coastal city. And so that's how we came up with this idea of 3D printing living seawalls, which is what we're building today.
So that's fascinating. So it was really, you had this concept of a pain point that you felt, very personally, and then said, we've got to do something about this. Obviously, we're not talking about solutions, we're talking about problems. Doesn't sound like, life as a lawyer was your specific dream. But tell me, so, I mean, I grew up in San Diego, right? So I grew up, right next to the ocean. I've seen seawalls. Tell me, tell a layman, what is the purpose of a seawall? And then tell me a little bit about what is a living seawall. What does that mean?
Sure. So the seawall is the barrier between land and water. So it prevents the land from flooding, and it also helps with erosion of the land into the water. And every single coastal community in the US has a seawall. The first seawall we ever built in the US was 120 years ago. It was in Galveston, Texas. And I always show the picture of the seawall when I'm presenting for the first time, because it looks exactly like what we're still installing in places like Florida today. It's a very rare area where there has been almost no innovation in over 100 years. And the problem with these traditional seawalls are, number one, they're very expensive. And in fact, they're cost prohibitive in many communities. I think it's a misconception that only people on Star Island have a seawall. There are many, many vulnerable communities in Florida, in New Orleans, all over the US, on canals that are on the coasts. And they just can't afford a seawall, and they're having to abandon their homes and they're moving inland. So that's the number one problem. They're expensive. The second problem is that traditional seawalls destroy marine habitats because, number one, they're leaching chemicals into the water, and number two, because they're flat. So all the organisms that were living by the coast, they can't attach to this flat wall. They can't latch onto it during a storm event. So they all migrate, and nobody's left to eat the toxins in the water. So within 1 year of installing a traditional seawall, the quality of water goes down 45%. And if you look at a national scale, in the US alone, we will destroy 50,000 miles of marine habitats by 2040 by installing these traditional seawalls. That's like driving from Miami to San Diego and back 17 times. And so with living seawalls, the big idea is, number one, they're structurally identical to these traditional seawalls. And that's really important for early adoption. That's how we're already in the water today, because they can be used in any concrete seawall project. The government agencies are very familiar with these concrete slabs. They meet the same code. It's the same PSI, the strength in concrete, same reinforcement, and any marine contractor can install them. You don't need any special equipment, any special knowledge of how to handle these panels. So they're structurally identical. But what makes them living is three things. Number one, our concrete mix does not leach. Number two, it has a special texture. It's called rugosity, which is ideal for corals, sponges, and small organisms to attach. And number three, the big idea of this whole thing is that all of the seawalls mimic local marine habitats. So instead of a flat wall, through 3D printing technology and having the world's highest resolution robot, we can incorporate design elements which enabled the structural seawall to now also mimic and look like local marine habitats. So in Florida, that's primarily mangroves. So our seawalls look exactly like mangrove roots, and that attracts the native species. The roots create caves so they can hide from predators. So it transforms a structural seawall into something that's also functioning essentially like an artificial reef.
That's fantastic. I mean, so it really sounds like a win-win product that you've got going on here. It's the same protection for humans and for the land that we've got, and also providing a tremendous benefit to the ecosystem there. I mean, if you're saying that the original seawall was built 100 years ago or so, and the technology really hasn't changed, I mean, how has that been? What has been the challenge getting your seawall to market now? I mean, is it just that people are uncomfortable or not wanting to change, or hey, we've already got an existing technology and it's fine, it's working fine? I mean, what are some of the challenges that you're kind of encountering right now?
It gets easier with every installation. Initially, no one wanted to be a guinea pig. So we
Yeah.
had to get creative. So the biggest seawall installer in Miami Beach is called Dock and Marine. They've been installing seawalls since 1953. And they actually ended up investing in our seed round in kind. So they gave us some warehouse space, and they're also an advisor in the company. So by aligning with them, they were the ones who actually took the chance on us. And they installed the world's first 3D printed seawall in Miami Beach. It's actually across the street from Rob's partner, Jonathan, at Govo on Pine Tree Drive. And that's been 6 months, and that seawall looks beautiful. It's doing amazing. Lots of things are growing on it. So the biggest hurdle was getting the first one in the water. And from then on, it gets easier and easier, especially as we get government projects, because those are also obviously making everyone much, much more comfortable if they're seeing that governments are approving these living seawalls.
Okay.
Well, in fact, Anya, it's really starting to work the other way, right? That some of these local governments are starting to see the positive advantages of these seawalls, and even looking at some of their regulatory environments to make it easier to adopt a living seawall as opposed to a traditional seawall, right? That's a lot of what our effort is in Miami-Dade County.
Yeah, so that's like an understatement. So we have, with Govo's help, we have literally started a revolution in the permitting process for seawalls. That is the biggest challenge. Actually, a lot of investors passed on us because they were just so afraid of the permitting. And they would just tell us, we just don't want to touch this. And for Govo, it was actually something that wanted them to be part of it because they knew how much they could help. And they really have, so the problem with seawalls in especially Miami-Dade County, but in many counties, and the permit, New York also, permit takes 2 years. So when you're getting flooded already, and it's obviously something you need urgently, you have to wait 2 years to get a seawall. Also, if you're building a new house, you have to prove that you have a new seawall up to code, meaning up to the height requirements, before you get the permit to build your house. So all of this construction is being delayed because of the seawall permit. And so through Govo's help and their lobbying efforts, we have now draft legislation to make massive changes at the legislative level, the county, because that's where the problem is, the county that takes so long. The biggest one of them is that there will be a 180-day limit to issue a seawall permit. That's the rule of the state. And if you don't do it in 180 days, then you get a permit by default. So this this is very serious change. And what's amazing is that people have tried. For one of our advisors, he's been doing seawall engineering with MoFat and nickel for literally 40 years. And this is something that they've dreamed of and they've always complained about, and nothing has moved the needle. And now we've put together this powerhouse where we have the draft legislation, and every single contractor in South Florida has submitted an affidavit of support. Every major engineering company has submitted an affidavit of support. We have a letter from the mayor supporting us. So it's kind of an unstoppable force at this point, where I really don't see a way that this does not pass. So already passed the first reading in September. There's going to be a committee next week, and then it goes to second reading to become the new rule in our county.
I mean, that's phenomenal. I mean, one of the things that I've always encouraged, startups and founders and entrepreneurs who are doing this, they're always so passionate about their project. but we always talk about, those relationships that you build with attorneys or venture capitalists or whoever the case may be that have a different specialty or that have a different view towards things can sincerely and genuinely help move the business forward. So I'm so happy to hear that your relationship with Govo Partners has really helped shape the growth of Kind Designs and with the lobbying efforts and getting you guys where you need to be. What advice would you give to other entrepreneurs in the environmental tech space that are seeking venture funding, or just some general advice for those in the environmental tech kind of industry?
I see being in this space, I see a lot of wonderful ideas and extremely well-meaning founders. I think most people in the climate space, they really want to do good in the world. But unfortunately, there's often not the scale, the market size that you need to be venture backed. There's not often the opportunity to have these amazing economics. So you really have to find this marriage of impact, which I think that most people have, but also great economics, a great product market fit, and something that's really duplicatable and scalable. So that's been really important for us. And the second piece of advice I would give, not just for climate founders, but all founders, is to use their investors as a resource. Unfortunately, I know a lot of startups, they get a check and they literally don't ever talk to their investor again until 6, 7 years from that moment. And not only is it unfortunate for the investor, but I think it's really unfortunate for the founder because they're missing out on all the help that they can get. So we're lucky to have amazing investors like you see in Rob, and Rob and I talk literally every other day, but even with the other investors, I always religiously send out an investor update, very detailed of exactly what's happening every single month, and always asking for help for very specific contacts, thoughts, ideas. We're very, very involved with our investors, and a lot of them are from the construction space as well as the government space. That has helped us with sales, with these relationships that you're describing. So that's something that I would advise every founder to religiously send out investor updates and keep them involved.
That's perfect. Yeah, I absolutely love that. Well, Anya, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today. Rob, of course, always great having you on the show. Anya, if people want to learn more or connect with you about Kind Designs, where do you recommend that they go?
kinddesigns.com.
kinddesigns.com. And Rob, if anyone wants to connect with you, where do you recommend that they go?
Yeah, my email is rob@govovp.com. I know a lot of folks at the Foley firm see a lot of interesting opportunities. We'd be always happy to take a look at them where they fit our thesis. And our website is govovp.com.
Well, perfect. Thank you both so much for joining us today. We appreciate it. And best of luck to all that's going on at Govo and Kind Designs.
Thanks,
Thank you
Blake.
so much, Blake. Bye.
Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep innovating.